In this lesson, you'll learn useful business English for project meetings, planning, and team communication. Let's begin. Phrase 1. Surface a concern. Surface a concern. Meaning, to bring a possible problem to the group's attention. Example: I'd like to surface a concern about the launch schedule before we finalize it. Use this when you want to raise a problem in a calm, constructive way. It sounds less confrontational than saying that the plan is wrong. In a meeting, you can surface a concern about timing, cost, quality, or customer impact, and then invite the team to examine it together. Now repeat. Surface a concern. Phrase 2. Tighten the scope. Tighten the scope. Meaning, to make a project smaller and more clearly defined. Example: to meet the deadline, we may need to tighten the scope of the first release. A project becomes easier to manage when everyone knows exactly what is included. If time or resources are limited, tightening the scope means removing lower priority work and concentrating on the most valuable outcome. This phrase is useful when a project is becoming too broad or complicated. Now repeat. Tighten the scope. Phrase 3. Sequence the work. Sequence the work. Meaning, to decide the order in which tasks should be completed. Example: let's sequence the work so the research is finished before design begins. Some tasks cannot start until other tasks are complete. When you sequence the work, you arrange activities in a practical order and make dependencies visible. Teams often use this phrase during planning conversations to prevent delays, duplicated effort, or people starting before they have the information they need. Now repeat. Sequence the work. Phrase 4. Remove a bottleneck. Remove a bottleneck. Meaning, to fix something that is slowing down the entire process. Example: automating the approval step should remove a bottleneck in our hiring process. A bottleneck is one slow point that limits the speed of everything behind it. Removing a bottleneck may involve simplifying a process, adding resources, or giving someone faster decision-making authority. Use this phrase when the team needs to improve flow, capacity, or turnaround time. Now repeat. Remove a bottleneck. Phrase 5. Build in a buffer. Build in a buffer. Meaning, to include extra time or resources for unexpected problems. Example: we should build in a 2-day buffer in case the client requests revisions. Plans rarely go exactly as expected. Building in a buffer means adding a small safety margin instead of scheduling every minute or using every available resource. This expression is especially useful when discussing deadlines, budgets, inventory, staffing, or any work with uncertainty. Now repeat. Build in a buffer. Phrase 6. Set a clear owner. Set a clear owner. Meaning, to identify the person responsible for completing an action. Example: before we end the meeting, let's set a clear owner for each follow-up task. Work can be forgotten when responsibility is shared too generally. Setting a clear owner does not mean that one person must do everything. It means one person is accountable for coordinating the action and reporting progress. This phrase helps turn meeting decisions into concrete results. Now repeat. Set a clear owner. Phrase 7. Flag a dependency. Flag a dependency. Meaning, to point out that one task relies on another task or decision. Example: I want to flag a dependency on the legal review before we confirm the release date. A dependency can affect timing even when your own work is on schedule. Flagging it early helps other people understand what must happen first and who needs to be involved. Use this phrase in status updates when another team, approval, system, or delivery could affect your plan. Now repeat. Flag a dependency. Phrase 8. Pressure test and assumption. Pressure test and assumption. Meaning, to examine whether an important belief is strong enough to rely on. Example, let's pressure test the assumption that customers will pay for the premium feature. Business plans are often based on assumptions about customers, costs, timing, or demand. To pressure test an assumption is to challenge it with evidence, questions, or different scenarios before making a major commitment. The goal is not to criticize someone. It is to make the decision more reliable. Now repeat. Pressure test an assumption. Phrase 9. Revisit the timeline. Revisit the timeline. Meaning, to review and possibly change the planned schedule. Example, now that the requirements have changed, we need to revisit the timeline. Use this phrase when new information makes the original schedule less realistic. Revisiting the timeline means examining dates, milestones, and dependencies again rather than immediately promising the same deadline. It communicates that the team wants to make a thoughtful and achievable adjustment. Now repeat. Revisit the timeline. Phrase 10. Land on a decision. Land on a decision. Meaning, to reach and agree on a final choice. Example, we need to land on a decision today so the vendor can start tomorrow. A discussion can continue without producing a clear outcome. Landing on a decision means moving from options and opinions to one agreed direction. This phrase is natural in meetings when you want to close the discussion, confirm the choice, and let the next stage of work begin. Now repeat. Land on a decision. Phrase 11. Close the loop. Close the loop. Meaning, to complete communication by confirming the final result. Example, I'll speak with the finance team and close the loop with you this afternoon. Closing the loop means returning with an answer, update, or confirmation, so nobody is left wondering what happened. It is more than simply starting a conversation. Use it when you promise to follow up after checking information, solving a problem, or completing an agreed action. Now repeat. Close the loop. Phrase 12. Translate strategy into action. Translate strategy into action. Meaning, to turn a broad plan into specific practical steps. Example, our next workshop will translate the strategy into action for each regional team. A strategy describes the direction, but employees also need to know what to do differently. Translating strategy into action means defining priorities, responsibilities, measures, and immediate next steps. This phrase is useful when moving from high-level leadership discussions to practical execution. Now repeat. Translate strategy into action. Excellent work! You have practiced 12 expressions for clear project communication. Choose 3 phrases from this lesson and use each one in your own sentence today. Speaking the phrases in a realistic context will help you remember them and use them naturally at work. If this lesson was helpful, continue with the next part and subscribe for more business English speaking practice.